Hi everyone. Good evening. It really feels like an evening right now. Thank you all for coming out. Sorry about the little delay. Traffic isn't always on our side. So, before we get into our guest speakers that we have coming today, we're just going to start with a few announcements. There is a lot going on in November, so it's a great month to keep up the involvement, get more involved, all of those good things. First thing.
Yes, so this Thursday we're gonna have a why statement workshop. Even if you're a freshman and not like applying anytime soon, this workshop can be really insightful and really important to help kind of figure out how your experiences play a role in what you want to do and why you want to be a PT. So if you want to go to that and you're able to, the RSVP will be in the newsletter. And yeah, we'll have that on Thursday at 6 p.m.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And that'll be worth 1 point as well. Again, something that I kind of wish I had started to formulate before I started applying, so I think it's super cool. Definitely take advantage of this opportunity. Next one.
Alright y'all, we have our next community service event this Saturday. It's going to be Shiraz Closet. So just a little bit more information about the organization. Their mission is to provide free emergency clothing to those in the community who have an immediate need for that clothing. So what we're going to be doing as volunteers, as you can see here, sorting through donations to look for stains, holes, rips, and then sorting it by size and item. This is a potential 2-point opportunity, so the shift is 4 hours total. However, you only need to come to one shift, either 11 to 1 or 1 to 3 to get a point, but if you stay the whole 4 hours, that is going to be worth 2 points. Sign up can be found in the newsletter, and then for those who've already signed up on the website, make sure you also write your name on the Google Sheet so I know which shift y'all are coming to. If you want to come to both, starting at 11, you can stay the whole time. But like I said, only need to come to one for 1 point, but if you stay for both, it is going to be 2 points. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, so if you haven't come to one of our community service events yet, this is a really good one to go to. It is like 20-minute walk from campus, and of course we always have a carpool going. So really, really recommend that you come out and help make a difference. You might find that maybe one of the organizations that we volunteer with kind of sticks with you, and you find it, to be a bit of a passion project, and obviously something you could put on a PT school application. So keep that in mind. Then on the 11th, we have a guest speaker on Zoom. She is an FPTO alum. She was president her senior year, and I don't know her roles prior, but she was very involved. She then went on to SDSU DPT, and she is a fairly new grad, and she works right now in pediatrics and pelvic floor. So really another great opportunity to hear from someone that's really been through the process very recently as well. She's awesome. So that will be 1 point and RSVP in the newsletter. That is at 7 p.m. next Tuesday.
Hi everyone. Next Friday we'll have a social event. It'll be a yoga sculpt class led by myself. The studio location is at Soma Yoga in Pacific Beach. Class will begin at 2 p.m. so I highly recommend getting there at 1:45. The carpool sheet is in the newsletter, and there is street parking, and if you've been to Pacific Beach, you know how that goes. So I recommend carpooling and planning accordingly, given how much time it might take to park. And the attendance goal and class capacity is 35 participants. I did send out a poll in the GroupMe, so please fill that out, and then I'll be sending out a Google form for a final RSVP shortly. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
If you haven't had the chance to take one of Ashley's classes yet, get ready, because it is an experience and you are going to sweat and you are going to love it. So get excited about that. Hope to see you all there. That is also 1 point. Then our next GBM, we have another guest speaker coming. She works at Sharp Memorial Hospital in inpatient rehabilitation. She's been doing this for a really long time, and she's super awesome. So hope to see you there as well. Just another perspective. We haven't heard from too many non-outpatient PTs this semester, if at all. So something that's also really exciting. And then on the 19th, we have a campus tour of University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences at 4 p.m. It is a Wednesday, but hopefully you're able to make it. There is a carpool sheet linked in the newsletter. You will get 1 point for attending. Even if you don't plan on applying to the school, it's a great opportunity to see what a campus might look like talk to some of the representatives there and see what they're looking for, because that can apply across a lot of different PT schools. So keep an open mind, and we hope to see you there. One more thing, make sure that you are checking your points, because the point deadline is almost a month from now. It's kind of crazy to think about. I know. It is December 11th, which is the last day of classes, and this is a hard deadline. So even if you went to something before December 11th, if you don't submit by December 11th, you will not get credit. This is just to make sure that our secretaries don't get bombarded at the last minute. They have finals to take too, so they got to take the time to put those points in. That being said, there are a ton of point opportunities still on the dock, so if you feel like you're not quite where you need to be, I promise you can get there. Just put in a little bit of effort there and keep an eye on that dock. Speaking of that dock, 2 upcoming point opportunities that are not related to FPTO directly. SDSU DPT has their open house. That is this Friday from 2 to 4, and that is worth half a point for attending. If you've already been to a DPT info session, good news, this counts as separate half a point, so you could attend a DPT info session for half a point and then attend this one for another half a point. So we're making that a little bit of an expanded opportunity. And then the other one coming up is the Aztec Adapted Sports Liftathon. This is happening on the 15th. You can get half a point for participating and or half a point for volunteering. Volunteering might slowly be kind of tapering off from what I've heard. There are more opportunities to participate. Participating, I promise it's not that daunting. There are like 3 different weight levels. You can choose which weight level you want to do, which kind of activity you want to do. So a really great way to get involved for a cause and of course get your points for FPTO. All right, so that's all for me. I'm going to pass it over to our guest speakers today. Please give them a nice warm FPTO welcome.
All right, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having us back. We try and make this a every 6 months affair, usually one in person and one virtual, and it's always a lot of fun to see how, since I've been doing this now, I think for the past 2 years, it has grown every single time I've come back, which is awesome to see how many folks are interested in entering the profession, whether it be PT, PTA, CODA, OT, we don't discriminate. So as things go through this, I'm gonna introduce myself, I'm gonna have Sam and Gabby introduce themselves as well, and then honestly, a lot of what we've done in the past, I think that has worked very well for us, is just to create a conversation out of this. We're really here for you. There are folks here who are at every single stage along the way of their journey into this profession and into adjacent professions within rehabilitation. Nothing's off the table. I have a very clean philosophy, although I think we're being recorded, so we may have to be a little smart about this, is what's said here stays here and what's learned here leaves here. That is my philosophy. So we can have very candid, open, transparent conversations because it doesn't benefit any of us if we're over-promising and under-delivering on our end of the expectation of what this profession is going to be. Fair enough? All right, cool. So a little bit about myself. I started out, I think, similarly to a lot of you guys in the sense of starting to figure out where am I going to get that first level of experience? Do I volunteer? Do I shadow? Am I going to be an aide somewhere? So I ended up being an aide back where I grew up just outside of New York City. I started there. I was there for my junior and senior year of high school, found that PT was definitely where I wanted to be, and was lucky enough to apply and get into Northeastern University in Boston, where I spent the next 15 years in total, but it was a 6-year accelerated program. So I basically went from freshman year all the way through DPT in programs that are honestly very hard to find right now, because what they found was that those who made it were very good, but you also had an attrition rate of about 50% of the people who applied in their freshman year. So I was a baby boomer generation, just to put this in perspective. They took in a record number of 250 people into the class. By the time we were done, we were 113. So again, for those of us who made it, thumbs up. We did very well and we got out early. Financially, however, not a very good investment for the school because a lot of people didn't make it through the program. So from there, I had clinical rotations at Harvard Medical School, as well as Beth Israel Deaconess, which is affiliated with them. I then went to Spalding Rehabilitation, which is associated with Mass General Hospital. So again, got very lucky on my rotations as well, some of which are inpatient, some of which were outpatient, depending on what was going on. And the reason I only bring that up is because going to Spalding, even though it was my second out of 3 rotations, is what ended up giving me my first job. So you never know who along the way in your journey is going to end up helping you out later on down the line. Never burn a bridge is my chief point of advice. If you don't take anything away from this, never ever, despite what you might think, burn a bridge, because there's always somebody who's going to help you along the way. There's a separate story I'll get to in a second. So I was a staff physical therapist. They had opened up a new site for Spalding Hospital. For those of you who had any memory of this, and it's kind of aging myself now as I say the words, the Boston Marathon bombing happened the year after I graduated. So I started out at Mass General Hospital. The hospital that they brought me into actually opened early to accommodate the victims of the bombing, and they needed support. Once I went there, I found that I was enjoying myself and they needed folks for the outpatient, so I ended up doing outpatient orthopedics and aquatics. Although orthopedics in a hospital like Spalding ended up being everything from amputees to SCI, but I have problems in other parts of my body to post-stroke. So it was not musculoskeletal in the traditional sense. I spent 6 years out there, had a lot of students come through. I was adjunct faculty as well at the time. I had practicums, so I had people coming in to spend time with patient care with me. And eventually found that I enjoyed teaching a lot. I enjoyed mentoring a lot more. And so found, okay, well, students coming through is a joy. What happens if I have people who don't leave? What happens if I mentor them? And so I ended up shifting gears and going over to another company, ATI, physical therapy, through another rotation that I had. So 6 years later, picked up the phone, had a conversation, and found myself the director of a clinic that I helped grow under myself. Eventually had 3 under me in Boston before finding that I was sick of the winters. I'd spent a lot of time in Boston and the Northeast. I was curious about what else was out there. There were quite a few headwinds as well within healthcare that were starting to change at the time, and I would argue are still ongoing now, and that led me to PRN. So after having a few conversations, again, with people who had worked for previous companies like ATI, had come over, again, gave them a call. How are things looking on the other side? Oh, West Coast is nice, okay, sure. Can you sell me on the job? Let's have this conversation. And now I'm the regional director of operations for PRN physical therapy here. I am still patient facing, although not as much as I used to be. So once every 2 or 3 weeks, I will find myself in a clinic because I do enjoy treating and I enjoy being with the rest of the staff. It's good for me to stay grounded and connected and not sit behind a desk. I'm not built that way anyway. I tend to mill and I tend to stand and talk anyway. And that's where I find myself currently. I was lucky enough a couple years ago to, through clinic director Reese Jensen, get in touch with these fine folks here. And I've been doing this talk twice a year ever since, bringing on folks who have a little bit less time under their belt, but are therefore closer to the university side of things, which is I think where most of your questions will be in a few moments. So I'm gonna have Gabby come up first because we have slides ready to go, and then I'll have Sam come and freestyle. Same old.
Oh, cool. Okay, hi, I'm Gabby. I am a newly graduated physical therapist assistant from San Diego Mesa College. But before that, I was a swim instructor and a swim coach in the Grand Old Bakersfield, California for 10 years. So I have no PT aid experience whatsoever. But that job itself is what really fueled my passion for, one, being in the medical field, but two, working with athletes and being able to teach people how their body works and how their body functions, and then better understand how to correct things like technique, form, and performance. So, like I said, I did that for 10 years, a very long time, from the age of 15 to 25. And then I did my general education classes at Bakersfield College. And Bakersfield at the time did not have a physical therapist assistant program. So I started looking elsewhere, applied to a couple schools, one of them being San Diego Mesa, the other being College of the Sequoias in Visalia, California, so kind of like Central Valley still. Didn't get in on my first try, but tried once again before my anatomy and physiology credits expired and got in on my second time. Woo woo. So I started there in 2023. In the meantime, while I was there, I did some volunteer hours at VIP Neuro, which is a private clinic for stroke, spinal cord injury patients. We even saw some drowning victims and kids, which was very fascinating and interesting. But got to have a little bit of aid experience underneath them. They're a great clinic. They're in the Miramar area, so if you're wanting volunteer hours, that's really little plug, go look them up. Anyways, oh, too far. There we go. I did my rotations first at a skilled nursing facility in Santee, California. They're underneath the Generations Healthcare kind of umbrella. Generations Health, they own a couple of skilled nursing facilities. And it's just a transitional place for people if they're not safe to go home from the hospital after having a surgery or something of some sorts. Then they go to there, and then they get physical therapy and nursing care, etc., before they're able to discharge home. My second rotation, I was at Spine and Sport in Poway, and Spine and Sport in Poway is where I, one, got to experience aquatic therapy for the first time, so getting people in the pool, but two, that is my connection to my job with PRN, which we'll get there in a moment. And my third rotation I did at Sharp Grossmont Hospital. I worked on the acute care floors, so I saw a lot of orthopedic cases, knee replacements, spine surgeries, did some stuff on the cardiac floor, so people who had open heart stuff or LVADs, things like that. And then here we are today. I graduated in May this year, took my state boards in July and passed, woo-woo, and then got my job here at PRN. And PRN bought Spine and Sport a couple months ago, and so after I graduated, I stayed in contact with Xerxes and a couple other people, and started having some conversations about jobs and, hey, do you want to work for us? What do you think? And ended up landing at the PRN in El Cajon, and we also have aquatic therapy over there too, so I get to do that as well. So yeah.
Sam, take it away.
We need a blank slide, you can just throw those
I
out.
don't know what happens next, so I'm not gonna hit any buttons.
Throw it out.
I'm just gonna hand it back to the president and
Let's go.
go from there.
Alright, we're going off the dome, someone give me a beat. No. I did do acapella in college, so these are glory days. My name's Sam, I'm a physical therapist in La Mesa. I'm actually transitioning to Chula Vista next week to be the clinic director there. I also am a student relationship manager, so what I do is I help kind of touch bridges with students as they're going through clinical rotations. I've had a few students myself, and I'll touch base with them at the start and end of the rotation. We're trying to just gather information, support the students, mentor them, and also just see what we're doing well and not well with our students so we can train up our clinic directors and our CIs to just do things better and also just tell them how awesome PRN is. So I was born in San Diego, but then when I was 5, my dad got a new job in Virginia, so we moved out there. I lived in Virginia all my school years, so kindergarten up through grad school. I went to James Madison University in Virginia. While I was there, I took anatomy, was intrigued by it. I actually went to the Dominican Republic for like a service trip, and I got to help at a physical therapy clinic. Down there, there's no rules, so I was stretching patients, I was throwing E-step pads on them, I was just treating them, and I loved it. It was super fun. I got to see people walk, I just felt like an amalgam of all the things I loved, which was movement and people and helping and seeing change happen, not being at a desk. So came back, said I'm gonna do pre-PT, and then I saw how much GPA I needed, and I went, oh boy, we gotta work at this. But I got the waitlist call from Old Dominion University, and then they called me up in June and said, hey, you're off the waitlist. Do you want to come on in? And I was like, let's do it. Came right over, and I got the best score in anatomy that first semester because I've been a TA. So if you get a C+ in anatomy freshman year, take it again, and then become a TA. It's going to be your first class when you go back to PT school. So if you can teach something, you really know it. That's going to be my little nugget of advice. And then I had a bit of a non-traditional route. Did 2 years of physical therapy school, and then one of my clinical rotations, I hit a road bump. My dog had passed away. I was struggling to understand the inpatient rehab world. I was having high-risk patients who had IVs, who had cardiac issues, who had O2, and I started to just kind of self-sabotage and be really stressed out about the stakes of my performance. And I found out on second last today that I didn't pass my clinical rotation. Now, granted, I had great grades up to that point and was in good academic standing, so they said, you can retake it next year, but for the next year, like, you're out. So wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but things worked out. I found out from one of the instructors there about a clinic where one of the, again, instructors, he took me under his wing. He's like, hey, you're gonna work as an aide, but I want you to treat it like you're a student. You're gonna come in with me for every evaluation. I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm gonna ask you to help me develop home programs. I'm gonna have you coach the students. I want you to go into the baseball clinics and help them with the throwing program. And this was in August of 2019. Well, what happened that spring? Global pandemic. So all the people that were in the class that I should have been in couldn't find jobs for 4 or 5 months. All their clinicals got shut down. Meanwhile, I am just the temperature guy at the clinic, making sure everything's good, cleaning everything 42 times. And then when I got back into school, finished my last year, I got a job 2 weeks out. And so things work out, things happen for a reason. I was very grateful for that. And I decided to move across the country, back to San Diego, where I was from. I wanted to be somewhere where it was a little more open air. I started working at Spine and Sport Physical Therapy up in San Marcos. And it was there that I got to recultivate my Spanish skills, use those a lot, really enjoyed that. But again, I was in La Mesa, and I didn't realize when I signed on how far San Marcos and La Mesa were from each other. And doing that commute every day for a year, I was a little bit burnt out by it. So, like Xerxes said, didn't burn the bridge, just said, hey, I think I need a different fit right now. So I started working at a place in El Cajon. Worked with a lot of kids, a lot of athletes, ACLs, it was really fun. But that clinic was some stagnation there. I didn't see where I would grow. I didn't see how I would be a better clinician in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And so I started asking myself, like, where can I go where that's gonna get elevated another notch? That's where I found PRN. Started in La Mesa, been there the last 2 years. It's been awesome. And again, it's been really fun. In my student role, I go visit clinics. Well, one of the clinics I visit is the Spine and Sport clinic that I used to work at. And you know what? It's great seeing them. It's awesome. They're happy for me. We're like a big family again. A lot of us are at different spots. And it's cool, again, like on the therapy side of things, we're all one team. We're all trying to get patients better. It's us versus the insurance companies working together, seeing what we can do. So, but yeah, it's been a fun journey, and I love, like Xerxes, I think, empowering and championing other people. And so that can be patients, that can be students, that can be aides, that can be other staff. And I've seen that be something that when I've said yes to that, I think PRN's given me opportunities to grow. It's been really cool. So it's a little bit about me.
It's like you've been standing and working.
I know.
You can lean, it's all right.
Yeah, just got it.
So I know.
No.
It's fine. I like being able to
Sitting's
see
bad
back
for
row,
you.
because they're the quiet ones. That's why they hang out back there. So I think I'm done. So I know that there were a handful of questions off the Google Doc. I obviously don't have a screen in front of me, but unless there are any pressing questions, we can certainly start there. But at this point, again, everything is fair game. That's as far as we have planned this conversation, because we really wanted to make sure that while all three of us can talk all day about what we do, how we got here, it's not going to be nearly as relevant unless it relates to what part of the process you guys are going through right now, what curiosities you have. And again, for us, it is a judgment-free zone. There's no such thing as a silly question. So lay it on us. Otherwise, we'll go to the Google Doc and we can handle it from there.
I have the Google Doc sheet questions pulled up, so I can just start with
Hit me.
them just to get it going.
Okay,
So the first question is being a PT flexible with your personal life?
You guys get first stab at all the questions, because I'll just keep on talking. So you guys.
I would say absolutely. I have a work computer. It stays at my office. It never comes home with me.
Damn right.
I treat my patients, I get the notes done, and I can go home. And right now I treat my neighbors. So sometimes I go to Costco, and there's sweet old Phyllis right there. Or I go to Trader Joe's, and there's Steve, and they want to talk to me. So in that way, maybe not as much, but no, I love treating my neighbors. And again, with PRN, there's opportunities to grow and to develop and to do weekend courses that we enjoy and love. And there's the opportunity to say, hey, my family comes first, my kids come first, my friends come first, and I think there's space for that. And we're always doing things to make the profession like innovate and be faster. Like we just rolled out using AI for documentation, and it saved me so much time. Oh my gosh. Like I go home on time every day right now, and I'm feeling very blessed for that. Great question.
I would add to that, it is flexible. Being a new grad myself, we're still getting into the flow, just the routine. But it is something that you just get used to, and the computer should never come home with you. It should be done at the end of the day. But also, for example, on Friday, I was like, you know what? I know I have 5 notes not completed yet, but it's Halloween. I got things to do, and I'm going to a Rams game this weekend. So the computer's coming home with me because I need to get out of here, and I got things to do. So, it is flexible in that sense that you, for your own health and wellness, you should not take it home, but sometimes it's okay.
And as a profession, there's there's so many options. Like there's people who go to home health, there's people who work really with athletes. And if you say you want to do the athlete and the sports thing, well, guess what? You're doing nights and weekends. But that's because those people made that choice to see those types of patients. So other ones who get to see sweet old ladies at their houses, and they're done at 2 p.m. every day. And it's a great profession for part-time work because we generate income based on patients we see. And so it's not like, say Amazon, where you gotta complete one big project. Hey, if you could see 20 people or you could see 40 in a week. Like it's scalable depending on you and your hours and your lifestyle.
I don't think I'd add very much more to that other than, flexibility. I think you found 2 to 3 different definitions of what flexibility can be. So I appreciate the ambiguity of the question. I think that flexibility flips the other way as well as far as what growth can look like as well. Like if you have an interest, then you should probably find yourself in a place that will drive that. In that regard, I mean, there are several physical therapy clinics within 3 to 4 square miles of where we are right now. I mean, there are plenty of clinics around. The question is whether or not their message, their thought process, their patient population, their mentorship, etc., resonate with you. So in that regard, you've got mobility as well to concentrate on, or find a place where you can concentrate on what you are most interested in. And that interest, and I'll tell you myself, shifted. Right? It shifts as you start to get more experience under your belt. The first 1 or 2 years is just, how do I do this job? How do I figure this out? Who are my allies in the room? Am I able to go home on time? Like when I go home, am I exhausted? Like the priorities are different because you're very much trying to find your feet. When you graduate, there's a very notable gap that will occur between graduating and passing the boards and the expectations of professional entry level. And it's noble and it's documented and there's plenty of research on it, and while we could wax philosophically about why that shouldn't be there, that is the reality. So the first jobs that you guys have really ought to help you bridge that, and really ought to help understand that that is exactly what's going on. Entry level means entry level. If they say, hi, welcome, here's the software system, and then 2 days later, you're seeing the maximum capacity of patients, I would say goodbye. Like that's just not an environment in which you're going to thrive, right? Versus finding something that, hey, this clinic right now really focuses very heavily on musculoskeletal, spine, knee, hip. Okay, I'm interested in ankles and shoulders. A good CD, a good clinic director or a mentor will say, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. It's not necessarily how am I going to say no, it's how creative do I need to be to say yes, right? And that requires some flexibility on both parties as well. So just to add another factor and variable into what growth can look like, what flexibility can look like, I agree. I think that most of us, by the time we get through what we go through academically, we want to practice. Like we want to actually use the license that we've had blood, sweat, and tears to try and get behind, and we've passed. And are you really going to work only 15 hours after that for the first year of practice? No, the first 2 years are fundamental. You're going to build yourself, and that will help you make the decisions that are, I think, at that point going to be far more informed on what you want good or you want balance to look like, for sure. Awesome. Any other questions based off of that, or?
What was the process like going into the field following graduation from PT school?
That's great. That's a great question.
In what way?
Yeah.
Just like, how was it applying for jobs or careers, and just putting what you were learning into actual work?
Yeah, again, I feel like I was in a fortunate position where I got to do the hybrid aid PT student mind, where I was helping patients, but I was thinking like a student or like a therapist, and I got to watch and get reps without being assessed. And so I think I came in with a much better foundation of exercises, and it was just a matter of, I tell all the students this, in your clinicals, in your school now, as you're taking chemistry, as you're taking physics, what you need to be cultivating is your ability to critically think, your ability to think on the fly, and your ability to make changes when stuff hits the fan. Because those are traits that you can take to any job, in any state, in any healthcare field. What a lot of people do is they just try to be really good at the thing. I'm gonna be really good at chemistry. I'm gonna be a really good PT student. I'm doing this clinical, I'm gonna learn their documentation and learn how to do their clinic. They just try to be good worker bees at that spot to get the grade they want so they can move on. Well, the problem is that insurance, that job requirement, that job like setup is not gonna be where you will be when you work. What you really need to be cultivating is those 3 things I mentioned, because those you can take anywhere. And so I'd say those are the things that will also get tested at first, like your ability to go, every patient is a living organism that is complex and not like the textbook. And you're going to try things that worked with other people that just won't work for that person, or but the book said that and it just won't work. And so can you pull out plan B and plan C, and can you maintain patient rapport and calmness as you go through that process with them? I think that's what's most important. And because again, anywhere you put the hours in at any clinic, and you're gonna start to understand how insurance works, you're gonna understand the documentation system, you're gonna figure out where they keep all their weights and their bands. But I think like it's important that when you're in undergrad and in graduate school, you're thinking about those skills that are transferable, and that'll make the work process smoother.
And to add to that, those skills that Sam mentioned are crucial, bridging from just graduating to first job, coming from first-hand experience, where as a student, you have a clinical instructor that you can look to for questions, to be like, hey, I'm not understanding this patient, they're not textbook, what do we do? Like, help me brainstorm. And duly important why a new job that you get for the first time has mentorship built in for you to have that. But once you pass your boards and you get the job, that's you now. You're the one who's going, oh, okay, they're not textbook, I gotta run with this. And so building those skills ahead of time are gonna help you not look like a deer in headlights to a patient when they're like, hey, yeah, so this hurts me, and you're like, what page was that on? You know, like you're able to spin with it.
Did you ever
and
like
go,
look
okay.
behind you for your CI and then
Yeah,
realize
yeah,
that
you're like,
Everybody remembers.
my first week I was like,
hey.
oh, you're asking me when you'll get back to
I'm
sport?
the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
Everybody remembers their first patient.
Yeah.
They won't remember their name, but they'll remember their face and will remember exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Because it has that kind of impact on you.
The angriest patient I've ever had in me was my first week. I'm 5 years in. Still.
I'm glad that you set the bar low for yourself.
Yeah, you know, it's been uphill since then. Yeah. We did not want to bump like
No,
that.
I agree. I think that the biggest piece, and again, I mean, I've taught several students, Sam's taught several students, Gabby, it's only a matter of time before she does as well. The biggest piece that I think makes or breaks a student PT or PTA, let alone somebody who's coming into the field, is exactly what Sam's alluded to, which is critical thinking. And it is the biggest watch point that a lot of us have right now in the field on what AI is doing to university-based academics. Because what we're finding is that it's just too damn easy to use AI outright versus using it as an academic assistant, which I think is what it should be used for. It's a quick reference tool versus having to sit in a library through a dozen books and figure out where the heck this is or Google it. Like you can have AI do that for you, but at the end of the day, especially as a licensed healthcare professional, you're responsible for that work. Like you're responsible for the words that come out of your mouth. And so you do want to actually be able to speak toward that with some sort of conviction beyond faking it. Like you should actually understand inside and out, okay, well if I do this particular activity or exercise, or if I have this particular presentation in front of me, how do I progress that? How do I regress that? What's my differential diagnosis if somebody's coming in for low back pain? Am I looking at the nerve? Am I looking at the hip? Am I looking at the back? And can I organize all of that in a way that not only makes sense to me, but that I can articulate to the patient so that they understand what's going on as well. Those soft skills are not taught in school. I didn't go through school, and you guys can give your own experience of this, but at Northeastern when I went, people ask me all the time, how many times did you talk about exercise in school? This many. You learn 0 exercises in school. What you learn is the biomechanics, the functional anatomy, figure it out. How do you need to make that muscle work, and how are you going to load it? What torque does that put across the joint? That's the level and depth that you should be able to act at. Because if I just tell you exercises, you're never going to think outside the box. You're going to cookbook it the entire time. So that's the difference between critical thinking, which are skills that, to Sam's point, you can be practicing and playing with now because they're transferable, versus let me take the quote-unquote easy way out because I just need to pass this class. Because at a certain point, that's going to burn you. And And the last thing you want is to make that realization after you've gone through all this schooling, you've passed the exam, because you studied for the exam, and realize that you have zero aptitude to think on the fly. That's a really, really terrible feeling, to realize that you're book smart but not street smart. Did that answer your question, Bud, or did we go on a tangent there?
No, you're good.
You can say no, it's all right. Any other questions? Yes?
I have a question for Sam, because I really like the way you talked about, or how you were very transparent about how you kind of got kicked out of
Yeah,
school.
I failed a clinical. I watched my 2 roommates who I'd lived with for 2 years go to class.
And how did
Cry my
that,
eyes out, because I thought, yeah,
how did you mentally still want to keep going after that?
great question. Yeah, I think my faith's really important to me. That was part of it. It was knowing that I had done my best and it had just been a bad month. It didn't define me. I was 24, 25, so I look at the 24 years that got me there, and then when I went and met with my professors, they all told me they still believed in me, and they knew I could bounce back. And again, didn't burn a bridge, didn't yell at them when they kicked me out. I accepted it. I took responsibility for where I had made mistakes that were warranting of not passing. And again, I needed that year to, I think, develop the critical thinking skills under pressure. Because I could do it in the class setting, but then in front of a patient with someone watching me, grading me, I didn't quite have the strength, just the fortitude to like still perform. And I think that extra year helped. And again, I got a lot of reps to go back to it. And I love having students now, and I love mentoring students through that. Because again, I think you're gonna have that moment where I think you guys are all performative. You got into a good school, like you're used to performing at a high level. And so when you go to a clinic and you realize you don't know as much as you thought, and you feel yourself mentally self-destructing, like it's humbling, and it happens to all of us. And so I love being able to walk students through that now, and challenge the ones that are entitled and lazy, because I am like, you don't understand how lucky you are to like be in your shoes, because there were 700 kids that did not get this chance too. And again, I'm not saying that's who they all are, but in that moment, they might act that way, or they might just, not have the drive. And to me, my patients deserve all the care they can get, because they're not always getting it other places. And so that's what drives me, wakes me up every day. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
This is more of a question for Gabby. First of all, congratulations on the newly grad. That's extremely insane accomplished.
Yeah.
But also, this is more specific for you because you did take the physical therapy assistant route.
Mhm.
So this is more of a question for like having DPTs around you, and like obviously having a different route, you can pick your own route. How come you chose the physical therapy assistant route rather than going DPT? And then even like you're still young, you're very fresh in your career, do you see yourself eventually going for DPT, or do you want to stick at the physical therapy assistant route right now? And also like a two-parter, what are your limitations? Obviously both of you can chime in. What are your limitations as a physical therapy assistant rather than as your limitations and expectations as at a DPT level?
Yeah, love the question. So I chose physical therapist assistant versus DPT. One, as a financial decision, and two, I like school, but I don't really like school that much. So, PTA right now is an Associates of Science degree that is moving to a bachelor's degree, kind of similar to the nursing realm. There are already a couple bachelor's in science of physical therapist assistant degrees existing in the US, and then actually my alumni got approved for the bachelor's degree. So they're supposed to be starting a cohort this year, maybe next year, which is kind of cool. So those were my two main reasons. I wanted to be able to get into the field and experience it myself first and see if I did actually like it. But two, again, money. So DPT school is expensive, that's no joke. But yeah, and I'm very content with my decision. I'm very happy with it. That also does leave me a lot of room to grow in that realm. I can go back to school and get my bachelor's in physical therapist assistant if I want to. I can finish my bachelor's and get like a bachelor's in kinesiology and then go to DPT school. There are bridge programs that also exist in this world for PTAs to DPTs. There's very few, I think there's like 3 in the United States.
They exist.
But they do exist, that they are specifically crafted for people like myself who now have some understanding of how that works, and then they just build off of the knowledge I already have and add in evaluations and discharges that I don't learn in school, but PTs, DPTs do. Also then I can become a professor if I want to at a physical therapist assistant program, which is something that I'm potentially interested in doing. But just a lot of opportunities open up in that realm that I can go back to school if I wanna. I'm young, I can do it, I can work 5-10 years as this and then be like, yeah, cool, let's do it. Or I can hang up the hat partially and go to teach part-time and go to do this. So I really enjoy that aspect of this job, that I get to do that. Limitations, are you asking for limitations like my job versus theirs?
Yeah.
Or, okay, yeah, so I explained this to somebody the other day actually who has no idea about the physical therapy world. So sit tight with me, but physical therapy is like an Oreo, okay? You have your cookie on the top, the cream in the middle, and your cookie on the bottom. The cookie on the top is the evaluation. It's the first treatment session when a patient comes in. They are seen by a PT or a DPT. It could be someone with a master's in physical therapy. They run all the tests and measures, do the questionnaires, yada, yada, set up a program, a plan of care, there you go. The cream in the middle is all the treatment sessions, where that's my job. I do that part, the treatment sessions. I take the evals that the PTs do, and then I go, cool, this is what we're doing. We're doing therapeutic activity, therapeutic exercise, neuromuscular rehab, manual therapy, e-stim, whatever. We're doing all of those, and I work within that and decide, okay, we're doing squats today. Okay, now we're gonna weight the squats. Okay, now we're gonna do a squat to like a knee drive on a step, like all of that stuff. And then the cookie on the bottom is the discharge, which then is, okay, patient's ready to go, we've met goals, or patient wants to be done with physical therapy, we're out the door, everything's done. So the PTs, DPTs do the whole cookie. Myself, I just do the middle part. I don't do the evaluation in the beginning and the discharge. I do discharge summaries, but that is just collecting data myself. So I collect tests and measures for the patient, but then the PTs do come in and they will sign off or look at the discharge beforehand and say, yeah, patient's good to go, they're done. So does that make sense? I'm glad you sat with me on the Oreo there.
Good analogy.
Thank you.
I steal that analogy.
Alright.
There you go. There's the physical therapy realm picture
That's
for
funny.
you.
I also don't love sitting in school, and then my logic was, I'm just gonna get all the school done now. I'm just gonna go all the way for it, and then I never have to go back.
That was my thought as well.
Yeah, so it's different ways to go at the don't go
Yeah,
to
it's
school.
different ways to go at the same problem. There's just we're all
And then-
we're PTs. We don't like school. We like running around in a field so much.
Probably, yes.
Competing and being number one. That's what we
Yes.
do.
Football field.
We just look smart as well. No, I mean, yeah, it was the same philosophy for me. It was just, I looked for programs, and at the time, there were several traditionals where it was undergrad going on, and then you took a couple years to figure things out, and then you graduated there, you went down to grad school or post-bac thereafter, which is what a lot of you guys are looking to do now. That's the typical route. There were some that were accelerated, so it was 7 years. And at the time, there were some that were like mine, where when you went in for your freshman year, you just kept your head down for 6 years, no breaks, go. Now financially, good decision. Psychologically, questionable. But you got out the other side, and for somebody like me, I mean, I certainly, looking at my age and when I graduated, should not have the position that I have right now compared to my peers of the same age group. Why? Because I was graduated 3 to 4 years ahead of them. They hadn't even started their PT curriculum yet, and I was done and practicing. So it depends on where your valuation is, right? I will say, and I'll share as well, like, I think it's sometimes dangerous to separate the worlds of PT and PTA too much, similar for OT and CODA. That patient experience doesn't reach its optimum success unless there is very clean, continuous communication between those two worlds, and that mutual respect has to be there as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes?
What would you say to someone who hasn't yet had that experience that convinced them, oh, this is a PTA is what I want to do?
I would ask you what you've done so far. Nothing.
Yeah.
How many years have you got left?
4.
So then you're fine.
Welcome in.
Plenty of time.
Hey, say yes to stuff. Like try, shadow different places, observe things, talk to people who do different things.
You're at the tip of
Yeah.
such
Long
a
iceberg.
long iceberg
Yeah.
in the sense of anytime that you want to explore, my philosophy is always, the answer is always no unless you ask, right? And you'd be surprised how far that gets you in life, for the record. But especially when it comes to volunteering opportunities, shadowing opportunities, being able to just sit in on something that you're curious about, maybe not interested in. You're still kind of probing and seeing what is out there. What do you like about this idea that is the healthcare profession?
Yeah.
Just start asking around. I mean, I saw a few events that you guys have going on just in November, where you can have conversations very similar to the conversation you're having with us. Are there opportunities? And can we explore that? Or are you going to some of these other events that maybe open other doors for you? And really at this point, it's not about networking and building a relationship and all that nonsense. It's just about introducing yourself and, hey, is there an opportunity?
Yeah.
If there is, and you're genuinely interested in it, you'd be surprised how far that gets you.
What about a transfer student versus somebody who has 4 years left? Like,
Again, I think just go and shadow and see as many opportunities as you can. I would shadow for a full day for any job you're thinking about. Like just see what a full day looks like get a whole slice of that. And just the more hours you can get, the better. Because I think any job, like the real world jobs, are hard. You're getting paid because there's either not a lot of people that can do what you do, or not a lot of people want to do what you do. That's what generates incomes. And so every career is going to have its own challenges, its frustrations. There's not a job where you just get to lay at home and do nothing and get paid for it. And so with that, everyone has to make a call of like, okay, well, you have to choose your hard. That's a word, I think that's a Jocko Willard thing or somebody. But basically, check out different things and be like, oh, this career is gonna be challenging, but this is the kind of hard I want. And being able to know that you're willing to go through some of the hard things to get there. Because I talk to people who just have hopped from different professions thinking that the next one, the grass is greener on the other side, and there's just always going to be struggles and challenges. But again, I love what I do, and for me the reward is worth the effort I've put in so far, and the effort I'll continue to have to put in.
What advice do you have for someone that's looking to get shadowing hours, or like how do you get into motion for that?
Pick up the
Should
phone.
call a phone?
Just pick
Call.
up the phone and call someone.
Just
Call
cold
an
call,
office.
man. You gotta knock on 10 doors, but you only
Yeah.
need one to open.
Yeah.
It's that simple. There is nobody, I think in the state of California, who is in a clinic who would be surprised at somebody calling and asking for shadowing hours.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, because this room is what percentage of your overall student body for the future PTs? Maybe 25%?
It's a good amount.
Maybe, right? So think of that. Now multiply that by the number of universities that are doing the exact same thing as you are in the state. There are so many people who are looking for those hours. It is common practice. We have a process for it. We have a protocol for it. When they call, this is the line of questioning that happens from there. And is that clinic right for you? And or is there another clinic that's close by that we can get you to instead? Shadow and volunteering hours, not a problem. You can email me tomorrow and I can get you somewhere. It's not hard.
Also priceless, truly priceless, because that's where you may or may not find out this is the job I want. Because then you're gonna get to see it in real time, in a real action, and that is very different than when you read in a textbook. So, pick up the phone.
I think we're gonna cut it there with questions just because we're running out of time. If they are able to, are you guys able to stay back a few minutes?
For sure.
If you guys have any other questions, you can ask them at the end. But here are your usual QR codes. Thank you all so much for coming. Let's give our guests another big round of applause.
I did bring business cards for myself, which has my email on it. So if you do have any questions that you want to ask or something else comes up after the meeting, by all means, grab one. You can always email me later.
Email him, he loves it. He loves it. You're giving them out.